Welcome to the Widowed Parent Podcast with your host, Jenny Lisk.
Hey everyone, it's Jenny Lisk, and this is episode 59 of the Widowed Parent Podcast. And as I'm recording this, it is March 20th, 2020, so we are in the middle of the global coronavirus pandemic, and I've been a little undecided as to what to share on the podcast, what might be the most helpful to my listeners and to anybody in general who might be listening. In fact, I had a regular episode ready to go this week, and I decided to hold off just a little bit. I'll probably run it soon here, but I did want to work on some resources specific to this pandemic and to the uncertain new world that we're all finding ourselves in now, and the extra challenges, and there's so many aspects to this problem that it's been a little bit paralyzing, not knowing where to start and not knowing what would be the most helpful to people. So let me say right now before I forget, please do write to me on social media or on email and let me know what you would find helpful. So my email is jenny@jennylisk.com, JENNYLISK. I'd love to hear from you because I don't want to share information that is a duplicate of other things you're already hearing, and I don't want to share things that aren't helpful. I'm also putting together, I'm not sure how many, but some short episodes here specifically on different aspects of the coronavirus. So I'm very happy to bring you today the first of these, and very grateful to Marny Williams-Balodis, who is the co-founder and executive director of the Hummingbird Centre for Hope, which is in Canada, in Ontario, about an hour away from Toronto. To talk with her, she was available to hop on, on short notice and record a discussion for you guys on widowed parenting in this uncertain time. And so we covered a bunch of different topics, tried to keep it short. It's about 20 minutes discussion, just hitting some of the main themes and some things to be thinking about, things that our kids might be worried about, and kind of some thoughts on getting support and things like that. And actually, speaking of support, before I forget, they have a virtual support group for widowed parents, as I'm sure you're seeing many others in your circles, setting up Zoom calls and various types of virtual meetings and get-togethers. And so Hummingbird does have one. The next one is next Wednesday, March 25th. So check the links here and follow them on social media. And that is open to anybody who is available to join at 7 o'clock Eastern, whether you're in Canada or not, whether you're in the Eastern time zone or not. Please join that if you think that would be helpful to connect with some other widowed people. So with that, I'll get on with today's show, and I hope you enjoy my discussion with Marny Williams-Balodis. My guest today is Marny Williams-Balodis, who is joining us from her home in Canada in this time of global pandemic. So Marny, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll have you back, of course, later to talk more about the topic of widowed parenting, more, broadly speaking, including talking about Hummingbird and the resources you guys have. But thank you for joining today on short notice for a special episode on widowed parenting in the time of global pandemic. I think there's a lot of uncertainty and stress and anxiety among everybody today, and since my listeners tend to be widowed parents, that'll be today's topic. So I'll just say Marny is also a widowed parent herself. She is the co-founder and executive director of the Hummingbird Centre for Hope, which is in Ontario, Canada. So it's in the general vicinity of Toronto. So I'm very glad you're here today. Let's jump right in.
Sounds good.
All right. So what are some ways you think that a pandemic like this can add stress for widowed people who may already be stressed?
Right. I think it can add in a multitude of ways. But I think the biggest part is that, when your spouse dies, your personal world has been shook up. We call it your assumptive world. Everything that you thought and knew to be true in your future, all the plans and the hopes and dreams that you had, when your spouse dies, those die with it. So your personal world has been shaken up. And what's happening right now with this pandemic going on is that not only is your personal world being shaken, our global world is. And there's so many unknowns right now, and we're not too sure what the future is going to hold. And I think that just adds to the layers and the level of grief that a lot of the widowed parents are experiencing today.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so this idea that I think we as widowed people are familiar with, that we had so many losses, and one of them is that future that we assumed or planned on having, even if we didn't know exactly what it looked like. We feel like we kind of had an expected future, and we lost that when we lost our spouses. And now I think you're saying that's kind of magnified a bunch of times over when everything else we thought we knew about the world is now up in the air too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that, the future of the world these days, and it's changing by the minute. We're being inundated with information that every day something new is coming in, whether it's respect to new cases or what we should do to protect ourselves or what they want isolation to look like. That just that unknown, the unknown as a widowed parent, as a widowed person, is so frightening. When we don't even know what we're going to do with our kids tomorrow, that now we don't know if our kids are going to get back to school or when they're going to get back to school or when we can even let them have play dates, that kind of stuff. And it's just our whole world is now shaken. It's not just the personal world.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I should say, as we're recording this, it's March 20th. So like you said, things are changing by the day, by the hour. So just as kind of a marker in time of when we're talking, it's March 20th here. Let me ask about kids. Widowed parents, by definition, have kids. Can you talk a little bit about the impact on them, or some, concerns they might be having or anxieties they might be having that we should kind of have on our radar screens as parents to be looking out for? Specifically related to this, pandemic and the new challenges that might be coming up with this.
Right. I think when it comes to the kids, we really need to be watching their anxiety levels, their worries, and addressing them as best we can. What's happened in their world is potentially they had a parent that got sick, and whether it was, a cancer, whether it was an unknown illness, whatever your story is, your kids experience their parent getting sick and then that resulting in the death of them. And now the world is completely talking about this pandemic, this coronavirus, this COVID-19, flu-like symptoms. It starts with a fever. You can have shortness of breath. All of these things could be what the kids have already witnessed through the death of their parent. And it can really be reliving some of their triggers and some of their anxieties of, okay, if this is how my mom or dad died, now the world's talking about this. What does that mean for me and my family? They can't see the global picture. They can only see what's inside their four walls. And that's what they're trying to process. Dad got sick and he died. Now this is going on. What does that mean? And it can be really scary. So scary for all of us, but can be really scary for them that there could be a relationship here that they are putting together, whether it's true or not. It's how they're perceiving things right now.
Okay, yeah. So that last part you mentioned about whether it's true or not. So it sounds like, this word sick, and I'm doing air quotes here, could be a really confusing word, I guess, depending on the age of the kids, right? But sick isn't the same as sick, isn't the same as sick. I guess I'm not saying this very well, but somebody who's sick with cancer and somebody who's sick with a cold and somebody who's sick with coronavirus, we as adults tend to use the word sick as kind of an umbrella. But it sounds like maybe is it worth having some discussions about maybe trying to gauge what the kids are hearing and what they're understanding and maybe correcting any kind of, misinformation they have? Absolutely.
I think that even just goes back to just how the parent died. We do use that word sick. Everybody gets sick, right? Somebody in my class was sick, or, I'm not feeling well, so I'm sick, I got a cold. And even when it comes to how your spouse, how their parent died, it's important that we really use that correct language, that we use illness or we use disease, or we're using the term pandemic, or, coronavirus, because it gives it's a new word, it's a new meaning. It doesn't have that correlation to sick. And if we keep talking about people getting sick, then the younger kids especially, and even the older kids, that term sick is such a global term that anybody can get sick, anybody can get this. And again, in their world, somebody got sick and they died. Whereas with the coronavirus, yes, people are dying, but it's because of this specific thing. And I think we really, really need to use that correct language with the kids so that they can differentiate between sick, which could just be a regular everyday cold, and this virus that's roaming the world right now.
Okay. Thank you. And then how about, I guess I'm wondering about kids who may be, I think this is something I've heard a lot from guests and also from listeners, this idea that one parent died, I don't want to lose you too, you, the surviving parent. And I guess, are we expecting then to see maybe more of that type of concern among kids in these days?
For sure. And I think it's also a reality for the parent as well, that now that this is going around, I think parents themselves are being more cautious and being more diligent to the social distancing and isolating themselves, because it's that realization that if I get sick as a parent, who is going to take care of my kids? And right now there's not the options are limited because everybody's staying behind doors. So I think it's not only a fear for the kids, a fear for the parents, that we really need to protect ourselves. But it's worthwhile having the conversation with the kids and saying, putting a safety plan into place for them. No matter how young they are, if they sort of know what to expect or what they can do or who would help them, it helps to alleviate some of their fears. So, you could say to them, if we do get, the coronavirus, then we can call in grandma and grandpa. We can call in the aunts and uncles or the neighbor next door, whoever that next person is in the line of care. Say to them that this is what we will do. They will come into our home. They will take care of us. And even putting phone numbers up on the fridge that says, if I think this is a good thing to do in everyday life, that, if mommy gets sick or daddy, hurts himself or whatever, here's the numbers that you can call that says, I need some help, and teach them how to get that for themselves. And again, that knowledge is power for them. Then they know what to do. We're eliminating as much of the unknown as we can. So I think it's important to have the conversations. Age appropriate. We don't want to add words in that maybe they're not thinking, but asking those, I call them, it's like being a detective and asking those questions to say, what are you thinking, or what do you know about coronavirus or the COVID-19? What do you know? And let them give you the words, and then you can go from there to correct or agree or provide other wisdom for them.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. You mentioned, asking kids what they know, which reminds me, I'm thinking about, the news, which may be on in some of our houses these days 24/7, or maybe not that much, but whatever. Can you talk a little bit about the news and your thoughts about kids and adults and kind of managing that?
Right. I think it's important that we really dose ourselves on what we're hearing, and being cognizant of, if the TV is on 24/7 in the household and it's always talking about the COVID-19 and what's going on, that we either turn it off or, use it on your device and put in the headphones. If you want to be hearing it all the time, that's your choice, but we should try not to be imposing it onto our kids, and recognizing that, they are in the background, they're hearing what's going on. So maybe you wake up in the morning, you've got your favorite news feed or, whatever it is, you check in to see what's going on. And then maybe again, you do that later on in the afternoon for some updates. But when the kids are constantly hearing this message of there's more confirmed cases, this has happened, now we're doing this, that we're just feeding it into them. And I think we need to limit that for them as well. Put on the cartoons, put on, let them go in front of their device and play what they need to. Let them be kids right now in this world that's unknown. And really just, and again, for parents too, I think us listening to that all the time, I know I've had to pause and take breaks. It's a lot of information coming in, and my head is completely full with it. And I think right now we know what to do. We know we need to wash our hands. We know we need to distance. We know we need to, be very cognizant of who we interact with, if anybody. In my uneducated COVID brain, I don't think that's going to change dramatically in the next 24 or 48 hours. And maybe I'm wrong, but we know what to do right now. So we don't necessarily need to be hearing it over and over and over again. Just take that break for yourself, for your kids. Take a break.
What you're saying reminds me of a widowed person I was talking to earlier this week who said she'd been watching the news a lot, and her very young child said, "Mommy, I don't want to get a virus." And then she realized how much her kid had been absorbing in the background and started to shut the news down and listen with headphones. Like you said, I think that's a good suggestion too.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they're hearing, and they don't want to get it because people are dying from it, right?
Yeah.
It's a great example of a story of that impact.
Can you talk a little bit about support? We're all quote unquote social distancing, really meaning physical distancing. But I know one of the concerns I hear from widowed parents is, and I've heard this multiple places, well, we lost our person who would be here in the house with us, with the kids, problem solving and commiserating and et cetera, et cetera. Do you have any thoughts on seeking out support, or how we should be thinking about that as widowed people in this time?
Right. I've heard another message from a widowed parent too, that they don't want to impose on other people of, you have that one person, they don't want to impose on them all the time to sort of be their go-to. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves as widowed people to not, seek help or go to the same person over and over again. So that sense of burden. And another widowed parent had a great idea of sort of looking at your network and who in your network can you go and talk to about COVID? Who in your network can you go and talk to about how the kids are driving you crazy right now? Who can you go to that might be willing to go and do a little bit of grocery shopping for you? If they're going out, they can grab a couple extra things. Who's the creative parent in your network that is coming up with these ideas for the kids? And can you tag team onto that? Let them be the creative brain so you don't have to be the creative brain. And just sort of when we're seeking help or seeking support, we have to find the people that can fill what we need the best. So again, who's in your circle that you can sort of piecemeal the support that you need, that being able to dump and vent of what's going on in the world, that can be that safe person for you. And I think it's trying to figure out your own community of who can I go to for what, which can be really hard especially if you're newly widowed, when that brain's just not working. It can be really easy just to back out and really not connect. But I think it's really important to get on the text and start saying, listen, my kids are driving me crazy just like yours. What are you doing? Can I, if you're getting something, can you get some extras for me? That kind of stuff. But this isn't easy. It's not easy to ask for help. It's not easy to reach out. But I think it's even more so important right now to do that. And everybody's in the same boat right now. I think that's what we need to remember, is that everybody is trying to figure out what to do in this pandemic world, not necessarily a grieving world, but a pandemic world, and pull on those people to see what they're doing.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. Well, that reminds me, actually, do you guys have anything going on that might be of interest or of use in terms of support or whatnot for widowed parents right now?
Right. Yeah, we do have virtual supports. We've been having them for over a year now, but we are increasing them right now. Our next one is actually next Wednesday. I think it's March 25th at 7:00 Eastern Standard Time. And it's open to any widowed parent, and, join on, bring your tea, bring whatever, and let's just talk and share and build that community and see if there's somebody on there that you could potentially connect with afterwards and say, what the heck are you doing? Because I don't know what I'm doing. But we're there to talk. We're there to vent. We're there to offer constructive support as well, offer some coping strategies and tools. And then we're on social media as well. You can follow us, and we're trying to put out more stuff of positive things to do, of creative things, just to try and lessen the stress that's going on right now.
Okay. Well, that's terrific. Is this every Wednesday then at 7:00 Eastern, or how often?
Potentially? If this thing continues on, yes, we will be doing more and more virtual stuff. As of today, that is our next one. We probably will have more, and if the world needs us to continue distancing ourselves, then we will definitely offer more and more virtual supports for people. And the best way to keep in touch again is to follow us and be aware of it on that way. We do need you to register because we send a link for you to join. So it's not something that it's not an organic, right? I don't know if that's the right word, but you need to register so we can loop you in. So
gotcha. Okay, terrific. And I'll ask you at the end for the the link or the website or whatever, and I'll put all that in the show notes as well, so that people can find that easily. And I think, do you have something also specifically for widowed dads?
We also have a virtual support for widowed dads, and it's pretty exciting for me to be able to say that it's facilitated by widowed dads now as well, which is fantastic. They met actually last week, but typically they meet once a month. Again, it's a drop-in, so you can join. You can pick a month to join or not join. And all of our groups are basically run off the concept of we have a little bit of education around a specific topic, and then certainly opening it up to conversation and wherever it needs to go. But yeah, we've developed a group that's just for the widowed dads because they have a unique set of needs because they're the dads.
Mm-hmm. So 7:00 Eastern time might work for a lot more people now than it might have worked, even a few weeks ago, I guess, with the flexibility and people being home and whatnot. Again, I'll put the links in the show notes for that. Okay, well, why don't we wrap up here? Let me just ask you one more question. If you could say one thing to widowed parents in this time of uncertainty and pandemic, what would you say to them?
Yeah, I think it's the same message I would say, even if the pandemic wasn't going on, and that's that, we're in a hugely stressful time right now, but I think it's important that you recognize that you are doing this. You are figuring it out. It's not graceful, it's not pretty, and it's even a little less so these days. But I think widowed parents need to really be cognizant of what they are doing and not what they aren't doing or what I should be doing or why can't I. Right now, all your kids need is your love. They need a little bit of food. Try and do laundry once a week so they're not quite so smelly, but even now with all of us in the house together, that might not matter the same way. But you really recognize that you're in an impossible situation, but you are figuring it out, and to have patience with yourself, to have self-compassion with yourself. I joke with, this is not the time to win Parent of the Year award. Nobody's up for it anytime soon. We're all struggling. Patience levels are low. Tolerance levels are low. Be aware of that. Lots of self-compassion, lots of self-care, and really reach out if you need to, or reach out regardless. Make that community for yourself and build up your cheerleaders. We're here for you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, terrific. Thank you so much. I think that's a great place to end. So my guest today is Marny Williams-Balodis, who is the co-founder and executive director of Hummingbird Centre for Hope in Ontario, Canada. So Marny, thank you so much for speaking with me today. And let me ask, where can listeners find Hummingbird if they'd like to connect with any of your virtual groups or find any of the resources you've been sharing?
Right. So we have our website, which is hummingbirdscenterforhope.com. We're also on Facebook and Twitter. Those are the three platforms that we're using right now, and you can search us out in those. And we look forward to seeing you there.
Okay, fantastic. Well, Marny, thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Absolutely. This has been great. Too bad it's about COVID, but it's been great.
Yes, yes. Well, and we will definitely have you back down the road at some point here to talk about more broadly about widowed parenting. But I really do appreciate you jumping on quickly and sharing some thoughts that are really directly applicable today.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed my discussion with Marny Williams-Balodis as much as I did. You can find show notes and all the links at widowedparentpodcast.com. Look for episode 59. And do look for more short episodes specifically related to this parenting in the time of this global pandemic. I'm not really sure how often I'll release them. It's going to be more often than once a week. So please do check back. And again, let me know which aspects of this whole gigantic, multifaceted topic would be most helpful if I could cover, interview people about, or resources that I could pull together and share on social media or other places. Please do let me know what would be helpful. I hope you're faring okay in this difficult time. I think that, we all know the term social distancing now, and I think it's an unfortunate choice of name. I wish it had been called physical distancing, because as we all know, social contact is potentially more important now than ever, especially if this, we may be in this for an extended period of time and we might not be getting some of the social contact we usually get, even if we don't think of it as social, when we interact with people at work or at the grocery store or at, various places we go to, the gym or whatnot. That is, to greater and greater degrees getting shut down. But, we still can FaceTime people and call people. And I heard somebody saying that they had a great catch-up discussion with their neighbor, each standing in their own driveways 20 feet apart or something, and talking with a loud volume, and having a grand old time talking. And you know what? That's not only totally okay, it's also, I think, to be encouraged in this time. So hang in there, and as always, thank you for listening. And until next time, keep smiling.
Thank you for listening to the Widowed Parent Podcast with your host, Jenny Lisk. Connect with us on social media and at widowedparentpodcast.com.